All right. Hello and welcome to the very first in a series of Niwa author interviews. I'm Pat, and with me is Kimila Kay, who's the author of Peril in Paradise and a series following that. Would it be safe to call them mystery thrillers?
Yes,
Or
so the Mexico series are suspense thrillers. And then the series that's set in Oregon, the Stony Brook series, that's mystery suspense. So two different genre or two different ideas around that mystery idea.
no, excellent. So yeah, I only saw the one on the Niwa site.
Yeah,
So on the Peril in the what is it? Mexico Mayhem.
right. So yeah, I have the Mexico Mayhem series. I actually have four books in that now. I just published Chaos in Cabo. And then I have a series called the Stony Brook Mysteries, which is set in Oregon. And I'm working on the sixth book in that series.
Oh wow. Okay. So the first five are
So
already out.
the first five are already out.
Excellent. Let's see. Sorry. Um, so in the Mexico Mayhem series, I noticed each one seems to have a different cast of characters, right? Are they all completely
Correct.
independent of each other?
They are not completely independent, whereas in the the original set of characters in Peril in Paradise, at the end of the book, you're introduced to the next trio because I write in all three voices. So you get introduced to the next hero, heroine, and villain. And then the locale also changes. But what kind of connects them is some of the supporting characters move forward. So you don't have to read them in order, but there is mention of other characters in past storylines that a reader might find a little confusing and or encouraged they'd be encouraged to go back and read the others. So
Right. Okay. So, but each one then is its own self-contained
yes,
story,
own self-contained
separate,
story.
but
Don't
with elements that bleed over.
yeah, right.
Okay. And why Mexico? Why did you choose? So these are all set in Mexico, but in different cities in Mexico.
Yeah, so funny story. Randy and I got married 34 and a half years ago, and he's planning the honeymoon and talking about where we're going to go. And so, of course, we got married in August, so we're going somewhere tropical in August, and I know it's going to be hot and humid. So I start kind of planning for, this hot, humid environment. And he comes home and he says, "Yeah," he goes, "I finally got the honeymoon booked, and I'm so excited. We're going to have such a great time." And I said, "Well, I guess I'll go finish packing then." And he goes, "Well, how do you don't know where we're going? How do you know what to pack?" And I said, "Oh, I know what to pack for Hawaii." And he goes, "Hawaii?" He goes, "No, we're going to Mexico." So I was a little bit taken aback because
Oh,
I'd never even thought about going. But I have to tell you, from the minute my feet touched the tarmac in Mazatlan, I was in love with the country, the people, the culture, just everything about it is just fabulous. And I go back every year if I get a chance, I go back. So one of the things that when we were first going to Mexico, females were sort of a subservient, they had a subservient role in almost everything business wise. So I wanted to create strong Hispanic women that can kind of champion the females. Now, 34 years later, that culture's changed and they've grown right along with everybody else. But that's where I kind of got the idea for the stories, and I started slowly introducing Hispanic women that I could then champion and make strong characters. So in the book that I just finished, Chaos in Cabo, one of the lead detectives in the story is a female, and I just really like that I can give her that platform to hopefully encourage well, not young girls, nobody young should read my books, but young women to aspire to be something maybe more than what they're doing. So
cool. Very cool. Yeah. So, sorry. Yeah. Would you say there's a good age limit for your books?
yeah,
Or
18. I don't write anything that would be appropriate for somebody under 18. Now I've had like a 16-year-old say she read my books and she
Mhm.
loved them. And I'm old now, so at 68, that seems really young to me, but
Oh,
I know the world has changed a lot. That 16-year-old girl now is exposed to a lot more than I was at 16. But I don't recommend anyone below 18. That makes me feel good as a mom that
right.
I'm not encouraging these books to somebody who's younger. But if I can segue off of that, I actually am writing a kid's book.
Oh,
So it's a middle school age book.
is it?
It's going to end up being a fantasy. So I'm really stretching my wings and writing skills on A, writing children, and then B, something in a fantasy setting because it's not my genre. I don't read fantasy, although I have been to kind of get brushed up on the genre. So someday I'll be able to say, yes, you could read this book.
Right. What kind of fantasy? Like, is it going to be in a historic setting or a modern day?
It actually has both, believe it or not. That's
Oh,
the whole storyline is there's these three young kids on the Oregon coast in present day, and they are going looking for buried treasure. And when they get to this island that they believe the treasure is on, one of the main character, he reads an incantation about when you hear the siren song, be prepared for your next adventure. And the next thing you know, they wake up and they're on a 1775 pirate ship.
oh,
So sailing the Oregon coast. And it goes from there. So the premise is they're in this historical fantasy world and they have to find their way back to their present time. So that's the pitch line, I guess, if you will.
right. Okay. That sounds a lot of fun. Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about your process? So like when you start a new book, where do you start? Like this plot,
You
character, setting, what
Yeah,
comes
it's
first?
it's a weird
Or,
thing, and I don't even know where it came from. Like I said earlier when we were chatting, I'm a little bit of a control freak, so I do like to start at the beginning. For me, the beginning is the title.
hmm,
So I work until I have a title, and
oh,
then once I have the title, then I work on the female characters always next. I work on her. And then I don't really worry too much about the other characters because as soon as I start to write her story, they reveal themselves to me, if you will. And then the last thing so that it's a three-pronged approach process, the title, that female character, and then the crime. What's the
hmm,
crime? So I'm actually starting a mystery series that'll be a true mystery series because that's not what I've written in the past. And it's going to be set in Arizona. We were down there on vacation and we went to visit this place called Superstitious Mountain. And the next thing you know, I have a title, I have a character, and I have a crime. And so I'm really excited about starting that. I don't know when I'll find time to do that, but that's how it happens for me. And here's another example. We're going on a cruise, a Mexican cruise in March, April this year. And I already have my next Mexico Mayhem book. I've got it started and it's called Lost in Loretto. Well, the cruise actually takes us from Cabo to La Paz and then on to Loretto, and then we'll eventually find our way back in the United States. But I thought to myself, gee, if I had a book title for La Paz, and I started writing it, I could probably write my half of the trip off because it would be considered research.
right.
So I go to bed with this idea in my head and I wake up in the middle of the night and I have the title. It's Peace in La Paz because La Paz actually means the peace. And that's what it means in Spanish. So I now have that next book and it's I just feel blessed because it just happens like that for me. I don't have to put a lot of time into it. I don't do a lot of research into the title. I don't carry it around with me for a month. I just know usually right away what it's going to be.
Cool. So so all the other cities then are these cities you've been to also?
Yep.
So you write the book after you visit them, or
Yes, I write. So my original city was Mazatlan. So that was my first and second books in that series involved Mazatlan. And then the next, so that was one and two, then three was in Puerto Vallarta. And I actually came up with an idea for that. Two reasons. I'm a true crime follower too, and there was a true crime out of that area that had to do with human trafficking. And so I kind of looked into that as my crime. And then the next thing you know, I find out they actually have saltwater crocodiles in Puerto Vallarta that roam the city. So you could like just be out walking one night and there's a crocodile. And so I wanted to put that into the book, and I ended up doing all this research about crocodiles, which then kept me awake for nights. But and then the next city is Cabo, where we were just there last March, and I actually finished writing Chaos in Cabo in Cabo. So I was very excited about that to have that opportunity to finish a book in the city it was set in.
Oh, that's
So yeah, so that's how the cities kind of came to me.
okay. Oh, very cool. Okay, so you've been a member of Niwa for a while, right?
Yeah, I
The
think 6 or 7 years.
seven
Yeah.
years. Okay. Can you just real quick mention any kind of like resources you found or used through them uh, in your publishing career, I guess?
I think probably the
Or
the biggest and best resource out of Niwa are the fellow writers. Because whether maybe you're story challenged or title challenged, or you're for me a big challenge was the editing process. I'm good, but I still couldn't seem to get it to be not nothing's ever going to be pristine, but like I said, a control freak, so I go for that. And I got a lot of feedback from other authors about, don't focus so much on that. Even John Grisham makes mistakes. Focus on the story. And that was really helpful for me because it gave me permission then to just write the story and not be in control of where the commas go. The other thing that I think has been beneficial has been, like, for instance, the fantasy book. I knew I kind of wanted to write it, but I didn't know that's what I was writing. And so, Rachel Carter, she and Kay Fletcher came to me and they said, so a couple things, we think we can help you with a better cover, because my cover was very adult, not meant for
oh,
kids. And we also think we can kind of give you some direction on how you get this, you get a hold of this fantasy part of this story. Well, I would have never, I'd have never asked because I don't think in terms of not being able to do it myself. And B, I would have never realized my cover wasn't appropriate. So I love that Niwa authors will want to share. They don't necessarily they don't tell you you're doing something wrong. They just want to come forward and say, wow, you should, if you tried this, it might give it a little bit better direction, or the cover might draw in kids better, or that type of thing. Then I've got one more, and besides mentioning, the board, I think they do a really good job, especially considering all of us needy writers. But those in-person events they're just huge for a writer. And I missed quite a few because I had a lot of family issues in 2025. But it was nice when I was able to come back. It was nice to be welcomed back and to see a lot of new members stepping up and enjoying the energy you get from those events. There's nothing like being at an event and, you're selling everybody's books, but usually if you're there at an event working, even if you pitch my book, the buyer's going to say, well, what did you write? Where's your book? They want to know about you if you're there because they love meeting the writer. So those are the three things I think that I get the most out of it.